system on fire. Military science fiction podcast. Untold stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast.
Nobody on YouTube wants to hear that.
I'll leave that in.
Tell us, YouTube. Do you want to hear about that?
I know.
Smash that like and subscribe button or this baby gets it.
Very science fiction ex-wife drama.
Welcome to the Military Science Fiction Podcast, and today we are talking about babies. No, we are talking about another baby named Rick Partlow. No,
I can't wait for grandbabies.
oh, you did very bad.
Softy.
But Rick went to LibertyCon, and it was supposed to be Rick and James and me, but I dropped out first because baby, and then James dropped out because the airlines suck.
American Airlines.
American Airlines sucks.
Well, apparently there was like 10,000 cancellations the day that your plane was canceled, so it wasn't just in Oregon. And so Rick went to LibertyCon in Chattanooga, Tennessee, beat some people up, and he's going to tell us all about it.
I did not beat anybody up.
First off, for folks that don't know what LibertyCon is, why don't we do a quick refresher on that? Like, Rick, why do you want to go to LibertyCon, and why should people go to LibertyCon? Where is it?
LibertyCon is in Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the convention center downtown every June. It is a fantasy and science fiction writers, creators, and fans convention. It concentrates on writers, which is why I like going to it. Fans who want to come, they have a author alley where authors will sell their autographed books. And they have readings by authors. Our friend Lisa Richmond had a reading this time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if Rachel did or not.
I was going to have one, but I had to cancel. I was going to do one.
Our friend James was going to have a reading, but American Airlines said that they didn't like his book.
Basically, yes. It was imaginary in my mind. Yeah. And it was great.
So, I like going to it because it's limited in number to, I think, 1,200 people, something like that. It's a very small convention. It's also very cheap. It's limited to 1,500 people. It only costs $75 to attend. The hotel is not that expensive. Food around there is not as expensive as it is someplace like Vegas. Last time I went to Author Nation in Vegas, I wound up probably spending over $1,000 on food. So that is not this place. It
is good food though.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to go to like expensive, bougie restaurants that cost $100 to eat there. So, I like going there. The downside for most people is you have to buy a ticket almost immediately, or at least the day that they open up, because otherwise you're not going to get one. Sorry, my dog is barking.
Yeah, those tickets, the LibertyCon tickets, are sold out probably within an hour of them going on sale.
Yeah.
So if you're not, already there hitting the refresh button as fast as you like this year, I was able to buy one ticket, but I couldn't get it to buy a second ticket for Rebecca, and Rick was able to buy that for me, even though we ended up not going. But you've got, and then you get on a waiting list, and a lot of people do end up canceling because because the tickets have become such a hot commodity. I think a lot of people do buy on the hopes that they're going to get to go, but without any firm plans to go. Mm-hmm. And then they end up canceling.
I actually bought a ticket for Beth, for my wife, and I was going to sell that to somebody else, and I forgot to. So I have a badge for her that was in my bag. I'd forgotten that I bought.
And I would say you can sign up for alerts on the site, so definitely do that. And if you're in, I'm saying this, I don't know that they probably have a Facebook group, do they?
Yes, they do.
Like certain groups, people are always talking about it, if it's coming up.
They
I
do.
personally have come to avoid any writing related groups on Facebook other than my own Haskell's Heroes
Well, it's
because of
not
the
like
drama.
a commentary type of group. All it does is make announcements about the con, or sometimes people will say, you know, they had a great time at the con. You know, it's not like a discussion style group, you
How
know.
was um how was the guest of honor this year?
Um,
Probably Gannon or Chuck Gannon, right?
Yeah, it was
Chuck
Chuck.
Cannon. Yeah, I mean, I know Chuck from way back, so it's not like I mean, he was fine. I didn't really see him at any speaking at length at anywhere, but I hung out with him a lot during the con because we know each other. So, um, yeah, Mike Massa was the master of ceremonies. He's also a friend of mine who we talked a lot. Um, so I have to admit that I did not attend a lot of other things going on because I had like six panels I was on and I had to moderate four of them. So I was really busy. And when I wasn't doing that, I was hanging out with my friends, drinking a little too much, maybe. And I did take care of myself though. I actually went running one day, and then the other day I ran the stairs three times, 16 stories, and I ran the stairs three times up, down and up. So I did work out. I would have worked out at the gym there in the restaurant, sorry, in the hotel, except I had run out of workout clothes and clean underwear.
So it's definitely something if you have a chance to attend, highly recommend it. I mean, I'm on the West Coast, so I guess Jeff is sort of westerly as well, but it's, I think it's a little hard to get there if you're on the West Coast. Like, I was trying
It
to,
is not easy to get there from anywhere,
yeah, I was trying to do
unless
just
you
one
live in
convention.
Atlanta.
And that was the
Because
thing. Like, even when I was trying to reset, like, where I was going to fly into Nashville, those got canceled. I was going to fly into Atlanta and drive, those got, like, the other thing was I tried to get a rental car in Atlanta, or I'm sorry, in Nashville, and there were none available. Like, that amazed me. I've never called an airport where there were no rental cars. So, yeah, I think that's one thing that
I didn't even know Nashville had an airport. Um,
they do.
Bear in mind, you're never going to run into a situation where there are no rental cars. They just will tell you that because they're running low.
Yeah.
If you
I just
walk
didn't
up to
want
the
to fly
counter,
into a place if I couldn't guarantee I'd
yeah,
have a
how
ride.
much was an Uber?
Well, this would have been an hour drive from Nashville, and it was 2 hours from Atlanta, which I was willing to do, but I couldn't guarantee the rental car. So,
yeah.
No, but I don't know if you know that a bunch of people, including Lisa,
yeah.
got their flight up from Chattanooga to Atlanta got canceled by Delta, which had mechanical problems. Delta usually is a good airline, so I'm disappointed in what they did, but they were going to get pushed the next day, so they shared an Uber. Six people shared an Uber from from Chattanooga to Atlanta. I believe it was $250 divided six ways.
Holy man.
Hey guys, hold on one second.
Yep.
All right, that's so I know where to edit it out. I just checked the channel and Jonathan's video never aired. YouTube is giving me an error message on
Oh
it.
no. Okay.
So when this one's over, James, can you send it to me right away so we can
Yeah.
get something on the channel? Because this will now have been 2 weeks since anything aired.
Oh, okay.
And with everything that's been going on, I didn't think to double check it. That's my bad. Sorry.
I should have checked it too. Okay. Yeah, I'll do
Now
that
you
right
need to clap again. It's funny, I did not hear that. Um, yeah,
now.
there was a lot of shenanigans with airlines this year, but I personally did not experience any of it, and I'm very grateful for that. All of my flights left either on time, early, which is almost unheard of, or within a few minutes, like 20 minutes of and I made the precaution of choosing flights where I had at least an hour, hour and a half connection time because originally I was supposed to get in at 5 o'clock in Chattanooga, but the connections were in Denver and Chicago were like a half an hour. And I'm like, there's no way. I can't chance that. So I chose the other option, which was to get in at 11 o'clock, but my connections were much bigger. So I'm glad I did that. I didn't want any drama. waiting to try to rush to get to my connecting flight.
Hmm.
I saw enough of that when I was there in the airplanes, like people running out trying to get, or they're like, "Oh, it's boarding now. We're never going to get there in time." It's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's the worst.
um,
But you made it. So
I got back earlier than I thought I would. It was United did a great job this time. Give them the credit, and I was very impressed with, particularly with the flight from Chicago to Chattanooga. The Everybody from the gate agent to the stewardess to the pilot, they really looked like they wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. They That plane came in, and 15 minutes later, we were back in the air, and it was very impressive. Thank you, United. So
all right, so you get there, and I don't know how do you want to start? Because I guess you I know you mentioned there were some dramatic things to mention. I don't know how
well,
you
I had I don't know if it's a unique position, but I was a moderator for four different panels, which usually you're not that many, but two of them, the original moderator did not show up. And here's a little secret, which most of you probably will never experience. But once you have successfully moderated a panel and it wasn't a disaster, apparently your name goes into a very short list and you get called on to moderate all the time when anybody doesn't show up. So I wound up moderating four panels, a couple of which I don't feel qualified to moderate, but I did anyway. And honestly, one of them was the most successful panel. It was well, um, so the guests were really well informed um, on the panelists, and the audience was very engaged, and it went really well. That was and it was very well attended, which was amazing to me because it was the panel, the last panel of the convention. It was at Sunday at 2 o'clock,
Mm.
and closing ceremonies were at 3 in the same room. So there was like 40 or 50 people in there. So yeah,
you know it's interesting.
that
I've
was
never
the Ukraine War 2.5 years on lessons learned panel.
oh, how'd that go? Like were people up to speed on it?
Great, went
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
The people, they had Doug Burby on there, and I cannot remember this guy's name. It was like Randy something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Older guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and also had David Shadoin and Casey Azell.
Hmm.
And everybody was really well informed. Uh, the moderator asked great questions, even though he made them up on the spot, which I did. I did not prepare well for a couple of the panels because they were last second. Um, so I grokked what are the latest developments in the
Ukraine War.
Ukraine war, and just made up like five questions over the points that Grok brought up, and went well. Um,
Were
the
people did you get a
Go
lot of
ahead.
people talking from the audience? Because that's one of the things I noticed about LibertyCon that I hadn't seen at other cons was the audience is very involved.
Yes, you have to, as a moderator, one of the things you have to do is keep the audience under control. I tell people, first time I see a hand shoot up, I always say we're going to have questions at the end, because if you get wrapped up in audience questions, you're going to get totally derailed. You're not going to get to ask your questions, and you only have like 50 minutes. So
Plus, there's a lot of audience members that feel like they should be on the panel.
yes, there are. We did not get that this much this time. Um, yeah, I'll tell you what, Mike Massa, who was the master of ceremonies and is also the head of the military science fiction track, former Navy SEAL, he does not he does not put up with any audience shenanigans. Like if somebody says I have a question and then they have a comment instead, Massa's like, okay, what's your question? You know, like, oh, well, it's a comment. Well, we only have like a minute here, so wrap it up real quick. And he also doesn't allow panelists to expound very much. He's like, okay, I want everybody to have a chance to answer. Let's go on. So he was very he's very commanding presence in as a moderator. I try to be a little more behind the scenes and just getting people to talk, and I just kind of steer things back to the question. Um, but yeah, I was on this one. I was moderating a panel on the future of kinetic weapons in warfare, which is, projectile weapons.
Hmm.
And I had originally intended for this to be more like rods from God, orbital weapons, that kind of thing. But everybody on the panel, it seemed like, was an expert on small arms. And I could tell from the first minute that they weren't that knowledgeable or didn't want to talk about, orbital weapons. They kind of dismissed the idea of ships shooting railguns at each other as unrealistic. Yeah, I didn't, and I could have argued with them, but as a moderator, not a panelist, it's not my job to argue with them. So I said, well, obviously they aren't interested in talking about this. So I steered her back to small arms, um, and that was a lively conversation,
Hmm.
including two guys who were really bumping heads in an argument, and I had to like steer that back into the
Were
to the
they
topic at hand.
were they sci-fi writers? People on this panel?
Um, yes. Well, some of them were very prolific sci-fi writers. A couple of them were like subject matter experts. We had a guy who was a former Marine, who'd seen combat in Iraq, who worked as a ammunition development specialist for Winchester.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so
I just the idea of someone saying in the science fiction realm that railguns aren't realistic and don't want to talk about space
yeah, I didn't
seems
agree,
weird.
but it was like I said, it's not my place to get on there and argue with them. So I just steered it away from the topic. Um, yeah, I didn't agree to the point where I would be willing to say you're wrong if I had been a panelist, and I wish I had been a panelist because I originally was supposed to be a panelist. But yeah, they're wrong. You are going to see railguns. They were like, "Well, you shoot from so far away," and I wanted to tell them, "Yeah, but you can't see the rounds coming. They're very small radar cross section, no thermal imaging. You're gonna, and plus you can shoot them in a pattern that's gonna make it hard to evade them all. You know,
Well, and if we can imagine like, future power sources too that make that a lot more viable, then I think railguns become, make a lot of sense. Depending on what you're,
we can build railguns right now.
yeah, but I mean, power sources are always going to be a problem. Like you
Well,
kind
the
of
Navy railgun,
have the Navy,
it
you're still going
traveled
to
7 miles in 1 second. You're not evading that.
Well, I mean, in space you're gonna be thousands of miles apart.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's just like,
But you can't. The thing is, they have an incredibly small radar cross section. There's no thermal signature. You can't like see them glowing red in the black because they've got a rocket behind them or a power source. They're really hard to see. And if the enemy is smart, or if you're smart, whoever's launching, they're gonna shoot one here, and then they're gonna
move, shoot,
hit their
move.
maneuvering thrusters and shoot one here, and then they're gonna shoot one along all the paths of approach that you have to take. So it's
it's literally how it happens in my books, where they
yeah.
shoot, they
These
shoot to
people, these
contain
people
people.
just the problem is these people were not um they were interested in small arms. They were not as interested in that kind of thing, so they just kind of blew it off.
And as a moderator, that's always kind of your challenge, right? So you got somebody
Yeah.
that wants to talk about something, and depending on maybe who they are or whatever, like let them say their thing and then find a way to wedge into something different.
Yeah.
You know?
I just feel like I just yeah the what were they talking about, missiles? I mean, like what was their replacement for railguns?
Yeah, missiles.
Bah,
And
there's
I don't
this
agree with that because
little
missiles.
thing where like they can't really turn that much in space. So I mean,
Well,
like,
I mean, they were like basically it's going to be a missile that's a spaceship and all but name, you know. But the problem that they didn't deal with that is when you build a missile that's a spaceship except without a person in it, those are incredibly expensive.
right? I mean, like
Building a new spaceship that could be a weapons platform if
that
you
might
didn't make it a
miss.
missile.
You're going to shoot it at somebody and it might miss, and now you're out billions of dollars. Or, hear me
Yep.
out, you could buy 5 pounds of nickel iron and shoot it.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, so we kind of just went into small arms. I only had 50 minutes, so I didn't feel like trying to, you know, do
Educate them.
any verbal judo to get them back onto the subject that I really wanted to talk about. So I did the subject they wanted to talk about. Um, I also had another panel that had to do with a lot of panels had to do with AI because AI is the hot thing right now. And the um, the consensus, surprisingly enough, among a lot of people was the same one that I have, is that what we have right now is not actual AI. It's not what they call general AI.
Right.
So it's not something that you're going to put in charge of your battles. And I made the point, however, that even though it's not general AI, we're dealing with politicians and generals who may not understand the difference and who may try to put the AI in charge anyway,
I think we've,
even
we've
though,
already seen that through human laziness, we've put it in charge of
yeah,
targeting. And so
yeah.
you could say that's in charge of a battle.
But anyway, yeah, the panels were cool. I I had a good time. It was the one, like I said, the one about the Ukraine war was very well attended, and the panelists were well informed and in their subject matter, and also I mean, in their own individual expertise, and as well as the subject at
You know,
hand.
a couple of years ago at 20 books, everybody was talking about like the next big thing was going to be selling from your website, selling, your books from your website, which was not. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen. Was there a thing at LibertyCon this year where it seemed like everybody was talking about this thing that's going to happen, or is happening, or is the next big trend?
Not really. Um, well, I mean, except some of the panels, everybody was talking about drones
Mhm.
because of what happened, in Ukraine with the Russian bomber base, and also what happened with Israel and Iran. And oh, by the way, I was in the middle of the kinetic energy weapons panel when I found out we bombed Iran. Somebody next to me showed me on so I'm like kind of distracted at that point.
For those of you who don't know, Rick has a son who's in the military and he's in that region, so
Right.
it's a little distracting to find out this
That could
happening
be
over there.
distracting.
He's okay. I've heard from him since then, but
Sounds like the ceasefire is holding, so that's good.
yeah.
The
Um anyway, so yeah, that caused a lot of discussion behind the scenes, among people,
I
the
bet.
whole Iran thing. So we were talking about that and Ukraine and all this other. There's a bunch of former military, sometimes current military science fiction writers hang out there. So they were
One of
all
the things
talking
I
about that.
I like to tell people is that while people might have preconceptions about the political spectrum of LibertyCon, it's actually not what you expect. And I've had some
No.
very
Yeah.
interesting conversations there. So I would not stereotype anybody that goes there or stereotype it as a certain type of people that go there.
I think it's probably about the national average. I think it's like 50-50, it's just that there's everybody there is more workmanlike, they're all,
Yeah, that's the difference I think between something like LibertyCon and what's the SFWA convention?
I like the Nebula
yeah.
Awards or The Nebula Con.
it's
Worldcon.
WorldCon. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Liberty Con. Besides being smaller, is much more focused on writers who produce and who actually, are interested in writing
Making
fiction and not writing, great literature.
I've never been to Worldcon. I'm going this year because it's in Seattle, so I'll be able to see what it's all about. All
Somebody
right.
else just got kicked out of it.
I know there's already drama. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, ah, crap, there's more drama. But whatever, I bought my
talking
ticket.
about using AI, they used AI to vet their guests. Yeah,
So, yeah.
and that got a lot of people in trouble.
I'm not on a panel at Worldcon, even though I volunteered. So whatever.
I'm
Hell
stunned.
surprise.
I
Why
know.
am I not the guest of honor at Worldcon?
I
I
know.
asked.
Whatever. I got to get AI to like me. That's what it is, man. How do I do that? I say thank you, and it charges AI too much. Whatever. It's like the cost of lighting a city for a day to say thank you to AI. That's probably
Cost of doing what for a day?
I, I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm exaggerating, but there was some stories that came out that how much it's costing when people are polite to AI because the AI has to respond, and that costs money, because the AI has to process it, and so it's better
money
if
and water.
you polite to the AI. So
Money and water.
yeah,
It's like a cup of water if you say thank you to AI for it to process that.
yep.
So makes me want to just be
Well,
like thank you, thank you, thank you over and over again.
what if you say screw you to AI? Then what's it cost?
Well, then when the AI overlords take over, you're on a list.
They're coming at you.
Get that Partlow guy.
Hmm.
Um, so was there anything that like really stood out to you at LibertyCon that was like unusual or exciting or like a moment that was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool? I know I'm asking the wrong person for this.
I mean, I didn't really see anything that exciting. Everything
Meet
was
any
pretty
new
cool.
writers?
Pardon?
Meet anybody new up and coming that you feel like was
No,
interesting?
everybody I ran into, I mean, with a couple of exceptions that who are newer. I mean, all the big names I ran into were people I've met before. Got to talk to John Ringo. I was on the Masters of Military Science Fiction panel with John Ringo and David Weber and Chuck Gannon.
As you should
As you
be,
Um,
should be.
right?
well, I was a replacement because Chris Kennedy couldn't show up.
Messed up. I mean, I'm
Um,
Hey,
sad
I like
to go,
Chris, but I mean like
but you should
you're
have been on that panel.
yeah.
anyway, that was I don't know. That was it was cool listening to them talk.
You
I
listen
thought
to David talk.
actually David was out talked by John Ringo this time.
Really?
Really? I've never met John Ringo, so
I met him
Yeah.
last year. He's a lot different. Actually, if I just saw him from afar, he probably would hate to hear this, but I think he looks like an Oregon hippie to me. He's got the ponytail, he's got the khaki shorts. I hadn't seen
Yeah.
any recent photos of him, so like that guy goes to the country fair. Um, what from that panel stood out to you? Was there anything that was interesting that you hadn't heard before, or reaffirmed some things?
I mean, uh, Weber talked a lot. We was talking a lot about so obviously this Dave Weber, so several of his works have been optioned, but none have been made into movies or TV shows yet. And he was talking about how difficult the whole process is. So
military sci-fi is expensive to make into movies and TV shows. So
it
if you're
is.
hoping that you're going to hit big when your work is optioned, good luck with that because I can't think of any single writer of the last 40 years who writes military sci-fi who's had their work optioned and actually get made into something that was like a big screen production.
Yeah.
The best we can hope for military sci-fi wise is like Star Trek. And even then they've gone so far away from the military aspect of it that it's not really military sci-fi.
Well,
It was in the
even
80s.
people who have stuff that's not as expensive, like Larry Correia writes urban fantasy, and with guns. And you'd think that that would be easy to make into a movie or TV show, but all his stuff has been optioned, and yet still nobody's been able to make it.
I mean, his sci-fi, his Gunrunner, which I thought was one of his better books, was optioned, and it hasn't
Yeah,
been made into anything.
yeah,
And
but
the
that,
funny
like
thing
you
is,
said,
is
that's
urban
expensive.
fantasy is relatively cheap to make, as opposed to
Yeah,
military sci-fi. So it's just you hear the stories like The Martian where Andy Weir was on the phone with a Fox executive on one phone and or no, a book executive, book publisher on one phone and what was the guy, Ridley Scott, on the other phone,
Yeah.
and you hear that and you think, oh, that could be me. And no, it can't. It really can't. That's not
Even
train you want to
Murderbot,
wait for.
like the most popular science fiction thing right now, Murderbot. Like when you look at the sets and you look at the like what is actually there, it's not a lot. You can tell they didn't like. I mean, money was spent, but not as much money certainly as they could have. Like I doubt there are that many physical sets actually even that in that show.
I'm wondering if they used the room that
Yeah.
Disney made for um what's the show? This is the way.
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I've
What's
heard
that
that's
called?
really
It's called
popular. That everybody's absorbed.
the
Everybody's heard
volume. It's
that.
called the volume.
Mhm. That would make sense. But yeah,
Yeah,
every time they're in their
maybe they
little
pumped up the volume.
well, every time they're in their little skimmer ship, and I'm thinking about like it's not moving at all, like for the characters, right? It's just a platform flying through the sky. They're in
Yeah.
a
Well, and that's something to think about. Like, if I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially since we talked to Jonathan Yanez about film adaptations, which is coming soon, I promise. Um, is that like I could, you could film Grimm's War, probably not super expensive because once the sets were built, it's very submarine-like. But the least the thing that you could film the best would be something that didn't have any sets that needed to be built, that you could just film on a city street or in a house. And when you're talking about productions, that's what people are looking for, is like, how can I produce something that looks good but costs the least amount of money? And military sci-fi, while it looks good, it also costs an enormous amount of money. And look at even like the Halo TV show, which sucked as it did. Um, even
Still
the
costs a lot.
even when it costs a tremendous amount, and even still, with as much as it cost, the special effects were not that great.
Mhm.
You know,
I guess there was one surprise from LibertyCon was that everybody said they liked my beard. So,
Will we steer you wrong? I don't think so.
oh yeah, we absolutely would.
but yeah,
So,
I got to hang out with a bunch of cool people. Talked to talked well into the hours of the morning to people about many and varied subjects. Um, hung out with David Shadoin and H.Y. Gregor, his wife. That's not her real name, but I won't out her real name. I don't know if she wants to share it. Um, with Casey Azell and Seska Small and Tim Akers and Chuck Gannon and Nathan Balyeat and who else? Mark Stallings
mhm.
and I don't know if y'all heard Sean Patrick Hazlitt. He has a YouTube show talking about the paranormal. He was there and we
Oh,
talked for quite a while.
that
I
guy was,
made
It's
him
the
a
ranch thing, right?
that guy was a kick.
no, I don't think so.
Talked to him for like 3 hours last year.
Yeah, I made him a very interesting bet that I look forward to collecting on in 6 months.
What was your bet? Can you share it?
I'd rather not.
Oh, okay.
But it involved the what was going to happen with the whole Iranian thing.
Oh.
So, um,
And that's one thing if folks might not be aware, like one of the cooler things about going to conventions, and if you can try and stay in the hotel that the convention puts a block in, because it's the stuff that happens afterwards. Like if they've got a bar, if they've got, a place to hang out,
I mean, they
that's
call it BarCon for a
our
reason.
time. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's the kind of really fun thing is just get to talk to people.
there's a bar. There's also on the 16th floor, besides the con suite, which is on the 16th floor. We didn't even hang out at the con suite this time. There were room parties,
Right.
and there was no reason to go to any other room party except Nathan's because Nathan had brought with him thousands and thousands of dollars worth
Things are
of
full.
alcohol,
It's insane.
including I got to drink the last bit of a $500 bottle of scotch that he had brought with him. So that was interesting.
Was
It
it
was
good?
very smooth.
Yeah.
Um, I drank some tequila from this bottle that had a stainless steel skull as its cap. It was pretty cool.
I'm glad it tasted good.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, yeah, we hung out and talked. And you're down there, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and you need to go back to your room, but you're like still,
But it's so much fun.
yeah. So
Any inspirations hit you while you were there for your writing?
no, not at all, not really.
Feel re-energized for writing?
uh, really, because I had to be writing while I was there. I have a deadline. I have to get something done by like the second week in August. I'm sorry, the second week in July. So I was still writing while I was there, and um no, not really any new writing ideas. Um no big short story anthologies popped up.
I know Chris Kennedy is asking people for sequel to Express Elevator to Hell, but
Yeah. I don't think I'm gonna write that because it has to do with blades and knives, and I don't, this doesn't excite me.
So I'm excited by like Voltron swords, so I think that might be come up with something like
I am not, so
I am.
did you guys ever see what was the movie Mechs Fighting Monsters?
who?
Jaegers fighting kaiju.
Oh, you're talking about
Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the best part of that movie, me and Becky watched that in theaters, and the best part of that movie is at the end when they pull out the sword and they cut the flying thing in half. And I'm like, where the hell has that been this entire movie? Like, what you should open with that. It's so
That was
much
the
better.
CGI budget right there.
That movie just got so much better after that thing had a sword. But not
Yeah.
that those things were at all realistic, but
Right. That was all real cool.
really cool. I love my favorite part is when they're like, "Oh, it's analog." Oh, we lamb.
I gotta rewatch.
Yeah, I thought the whole I like these special effects and the monster fights, but everything about the plot of Pacific Rim to me was
Oh, and the
just
characters were just
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
got a
didn't.
comic called Dawn Runner that I bought the run, and it's supposed to be like Pacific Rim. I just haven't read it yet. So it was like people fighting, giant monsters in South America.
Did you eat out at all while you were there? Eating good
Oh yeah,
restaurants in Chattanooga?
I ate out every
Well,
meal. I
yeah, but
didn't
I mean,
really
like,
move.
there's
Yeah,
eating at
anything?
the
Did you guys go
hotel.
off site to any good
Yeah,
barbecue?
we went to a place called the Local Place,
Makes sense.
um, which has some pretty good food. And then the last day we went to a pizza place called Community Pie, and it was okay. I mean the pizza was well made. I didn't like the crust, not the this bad crust. It was just like the style of crust wasn't what I would usually order.
Did you buy a pizza and then you had to share it with everybody else? So it's community. It's like a
Yeah,
collective
they
vibe.
we they also they sell pizza by the slice or by by smaller pies, and me and Mark Stalling shared a 14-inch pizza. Half of it was cooked according to the way he liked it, and half according to the way I liked it. So, but
All
it
the
was
pineapple.
the crust was thin crust, and I
Mhm.
prefer like kind of more a thicker crust than that. So, but it was really good pizza and good service. If I had known, I probably could have ordered the right kind of crust, but
We
I
should
didn't.
order. We should order. We should have Mark on sometime. He's good people. I like talking
Yeah.
to him.
I like Mark.
Oh, also, I did meet Blaine Pardoe in person while I was there,
Oh, hey.
and he wants to be on the show. He's a fan of the show, so
Oh, good.
Gotta make it happen. We'll
wish
have
I could have hung out with him
a
more, but our panels didn't align.
yeah.
Our
Have,
chakras didn't align.
have you ever thought about doing a reading, Rick?
I could do a cold reading. I sense somebody in this room has just lost a loved one whose name starts with the letter H. Haley, Heather, Henry.
Heinrich.
Yeah,
Uh,
Heinrich. No,
Heine's daughter.
I do not want to do a reading. I have no
you
interest
don't
in
like doing readings? I
I
like doing readings.
they,
They're fun.
they strike me as weird. Like, especially like I saw this one picture from Facebook, and it was I don't know. I don't want to say who the author was, but they're like all these it's like so and so did a reading in this super attentive audience, and I'm like, are you being sarcastic? Because like half the audience, there was like 6 people in the room, and 2 of them were looking at their phones
Yeah.
while the person was doing the reading, and so I'm just like, are you being
My
sarcastic?
problem
Or...
is I would not know what to read from my books because I don't I don't tend to write in a style where I would have like a really, really dramatic passage for my book. It all the book is like all builds up on each other, you know. So
Yeah.
one passage is only meaningful if you've read the whole rest of the book.
So you basically you're either stuck reading the first chapter, or you're reading a section that nobody knows what's going on.
Exactly. You know, it's not gonna
And if they're not fans of your books, why are they? I mean, why were you?
well, the
Why are you
dramatic
reading?
import of that chapter is not going to mean anything to them if they aren't
Yeah.
involved with the characters already. So,
I mean, I was going to read a short story, but I just enjoy listening to authors read their stuff. You know, I think it's kind of neat. Taking a picture of the audience is kind of dumb because you can't control who shows up, but it's
Yeah.
still fun to read it out loud.
I've always had this thing about public appearances as an author, where I feel like if you make a big deal about showing up somewhere and doing something and nobody shows up, that hurts you. You know, that hurts you because
it
It
hurt me right
does, but
here.
you know, we live in a time where you don't have to take a picture of the audience, right? You could just record yourself doing the thing and put it on social media, and then, I mean, that's the problem. We're also channelized with our audiences that if you do an event in this place, like your audience just probably isn't there. It's not that you don't have an audience; they're just not there to show up, you know?
well, I know Matt Dinniman did a thing in San Diego and 5,000 people showed up.
Wow.
So, but I think his publishers realize what a cash cow he is, and they're having him do readings and signings, and thousands of people are showing up. But it's Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Matt Dinniman. I thought you said Matt Damon for a second. I'm like,
No, Matt Dinniman.
Matt Dinniman, yeah.
Matt
Yeah.
Damon.
Matt Damon. No,
Right.
Dungeon Crawler Carl is probably one of the most successful indie to trad stories.
Yeah.
You know, they got a comic coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a movie following suit, because it lends itself to cinema, and they're just great books. If you haven't read them, read them.
Yeah. They won't be cheap though, that's for sure, if they're gonna make movies. But it'll still be interesting. I love fantasy movies. I like the World of Warcraft movie. Nobody else liked that movie.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
I actually thought they did a remarkably good job of sticking to the lore.
Yeah, I didn't even play WoW.
Surprised me,
Thought it was neat.
except for the fact that all the orcs look like orcs, but the half orc looked like a hottie. So because of course you did. Anything else you want to share with us about LibertyCon before we get too far off topic, Rick?
Everybody was really nice there. Everybody's happy to be there. The rooms are very comfortable. I had a great room this time. I had a room.
Go Marriott. We
Yeah,
will happily take your
I had a
finance.
room on the corner, so I had windows with views, which was really nice.
You know, it would be fun sometime. We should do this next time. We all know we're going to a con. Instead of getting the con rate room or whatever, we should see if they have like a suite with multiple rooms, and we could just get this all go in on a suite together.
You and
Yeah.
Rebecca do that, and that's always I've appreciated that when you guys get suites. It's always pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be up for
We
that.
did that at that Becky and I did that at Bally's, because one year we got upgraded for free to a suite, and it was just like I'm not going back to a regular room. I'm sorry, just not happening. Walk-in showers and all tables and tons of room, and just
The shower in this room was so nice. It had like one of those rain style
I love
shower
those.
heads, and then it also had a handheld. You could switch between them. It was really nice.
And Tennessee is muggy, so I don't know how it was when you were there, but
Rich sent me a
I went running, and I got back, and it was 45 minutes before I stopped sweating after I got back to my room.
I like that you sent me a picture of the one mountain that was in the distance, which
Yeah.
it was
Tennessee's not flat though. I mean, Chattanooga's not flat.
but that sure looked flat. I guess it's all. I don't think of that area as like flat. It's just indented a lot. There's no real a lot of indentations.
The ripples from the asteroid impact.
Yeah, there you go.
10,000 years ago.
I mean, I did want to note that like the people there are just so friendly, and that's I've experienced that in general in Tennessee, but um, yeah, it's just a positive experience. I'd highly recommend it if anybody can go. I really wish I could have gone this year. So
Maybe next year.
next year.
See.
Oh, I mean, I already rolled over it. They were really kind and rolled my whatever enrollment over to next year. So
They'll do it once. They won't do it twice.
yeah, I'm signed up.
Well, awesome. Well, Rick,
We'll
thank you
do
so
it
much for
once,
sharing.
James. We will not do it twice.
I know. I'm not flying American again, that's for sure.
Yeah. Fly Delta. Delta's really great.
Yeah,
Yep.
Delta. Well, though Lisa and them had a bad experience with Delta this time.
Oh no, that's right. They had to take a Uber from Tennessee to
Atlanta.
Atlanta, from Chattanooga to Atlanta.
I was looking at doing a road trip. I'd have to take a solid 2 weeks off, but that would be fun too.
Well, if you take a
Well,
road trip, swing on down through Powell, and I'll drive the rest of the way with you.
Yeah,
come to Writers Cantina.
I'll be there. I went ahead and just bought tickets. I'm like, I can get there. I can't
Yeah,
get
if y'all want to meet us, me, Jeff, and James, and I don't. Is anybody else coming?
Not from our group,
Okay.
but there'll be other people there.
Well, me, Jeff,
Oh,
and
BK
James.
Simmons is coming. BK is coming.
Yeah. So we're all going to be, along with Larry Correa, are all going to be at the Writers Cantina in Salt Lake City, July 25th. I want to say
It's something like that. Somewhere in
25th
that
and
neighborhood.
26th. So
Yep.
if you want to meet us in person, you should come to this convention.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
very reasonable. It's like $40 for 2 days.
And Rick's on a couple panels, and I'm on a couple panels, and I like to hang out in the break room in between and talk to writers about stuff. So, it's definitely it's
Anyway.
fun. I don't know how informative it is, but it is fun.
Well, there you go. You want to meet us? You got your chance. You just have to get from wherever you are to Salt Lake City.
And if you bring a book, I'll sign it.
Yeah,
Yep.
for a very reasonable rate.
I usually actually drop a couple of signed copies off out. They have a book exchange in the front, and I usually will drop a couple of signed copies off there.
Oh, yeah. I did want to mention before I forget that I met one of my longtime, big time fans from Facebook. She came to LibertyCon, and I got to meet her and give her a signed copy of my book.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
Victoria Torley.
Yeah, she was looking for you. She actually messaged me. She's like, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, "I'm not there." And she's like, "That sucks. Where's Rick?"
I ran into her. Wait, I'm in my panels and I have the phone muted, so I can't look at my messages. But that's why I didn't see hers immediately. But yeah, we did meet, and I gave her a signed book, and yeah, she was very sweet.
Very cool. That's what cons are good for, right?
One of my favorite part about cons is
Yeah.
is meeting fans, because
Mhm.
I don't know, as an author, you kind of live in a bubble and you forget that there are people who are reading your work. And online's fine. People talking about oh, but you don't know if they're real people or not. Or, but when you meet somebody and they start talking to you about stuff that you've written, it's pretty great.
And you get detailed questions about a thing that you did 5 years ago. But
Like, lady, I don't remember what I did yesterday.
I know.
All right, awesome. Well,
Thank you
when we
for hanging
get
out with
done
us.
with Writers Cantina, we'll make sure
Yeah.
we'll do a recap of that. And then in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe and share our podcast. So gross.
Hey, it is growing, and we really appreciate everybody. So thank you for helping us do that. So, all right, we'll see you all next time.